UFC 307's in the books. What do I say? There's so much to say. This isn't like I could describe this card in a couple of words. Guys, for those of you who don't know, Salt Lake City is notorious for upsets and weird shit happening. Leon Edwards was getting beat badly for 24 minutes and then boom, knocks out Kamaru Usman and becomes champion. Derek Lewis threw a flying knee that ultimately knocked out De Lima. Justin Gaethje throws a high kick and puts Dustin Poirier to sleep, which is not a common occurrence. And then we find ourselves here. Alex Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree. What can go wrong? Well, guys, I'll break it to you if you didn't know. Alex Pereira is still champion. But what happened before that, and what even happened in that fight for him to remain champion is just weird. And I'm going to break it down for you. Just a weird night. And I'm going to move extremely quick through the early prelims and and I'll break down a little more of the main card. If you don't want to hear me yap, fast forward. It's that simple. It's going to be a not too lengthy but somewhat lengthy video. If you're new here, subscribe. If you're just my follower and you were on my live stream, listen to what I have to say because you were a part of it. And I appreciate all of you. We live streamed for 5 hours today. And our first fight of the night was Court McGee and Tim Means, the only fight I didn't live stream. Court McGee comes in here, looks like the guy who has a purpose, didn't give Tim Means a chance to really set up anything. And in the first round, Court McGee wins by submission. That's all I have to say. I in my breakdown, analysis, prediction video, I said these are two drunk uncles going at it. This is exactly what I thought it was. But Tim Means had a few more beers. That's all it is. Carla Esparza, Tisha Pennington. Tisha Pennington, I had two bets here. I had Carla Esparza money line, or actually Carla Esparza decision, and then Tisha Pennington in a parlay with her wife, Rocky Pennington, with also got shit on. A lot of people say Carla Esparza got robbed. I don't think so. Tisha Pennington, for the majority of the fight, had the volume, had the output. Carla Esparza had one mission: take Pennington to the ground. Her going into the third round, a lot of people thought it was 1-1. Ultimately, it was 2-0 Pennington. I thought it was 1-1. Esparza's corner says, hey, get her on her back. You win this fight. You know what Carla Esparza does? Carla Esparza shows no sense of urgency for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And then 30 seconds left in the third round, she takes down Pennington. 20 seconds left in the round, she gives her ground and pound. And guess what happens? She loses a fucking fight. That's what happens, obviously, because Carla Esparza was drained, and a lot of people thought so. This was a battle between ring rust and not ring rust, right? Like this is just activity versus inactivity, and activity won. Tisha Pennington takes a decision win, and up to this point, I'm down 0-2 in picks, which had me concerned, reasonably. Moving on, Ryan Spann versus OSP. I thought Ryan Spann by knockout. I even bet Ryan Spann knockout round 1. That's how confident I was. Ryan Spann comes in. He's the lengthier fighter. OSP looks like shit. Ryan Spann, a couple nice 1-2s. Just looks like the more powerful guy. And what's that? 1-2. Boom. OSP's hurt. He gives us a 180. Oh my God. He's falling to the ground. I think I'm locking in on a knockout. All of a sudden, OSP goes for a takedown. He finds his way back. Ryan Spann hits a standing guillotine, and he drops down on OSP, hits a flip. The guillotine locks badly on the neck of OSP within seconds. OSP taps. First round finish for Spann, but it's a submission, and I continue to cry on my bets, but Spann wins, and that's the first one I call correctly. Cesar Almeida versus Ihor. Guys, everybody said Caesar by knockout. Caesar this, Caesar that. Guys, we saw Caesar gas in his fight against Roman Kopylov. I had no reason to believe he was going to come in here and just steal the show. Close fight. We did see the elevation play in here. Cesar Almeida comes in, and my bet was over 1.5 rounds, which hit. And ultimately, this shit just was a boring fight going into decision. And Cesar Almeida wins our first split decision of the night. Our first one. I was very happy at the time because it made me 50%, 2 for 4. But Cesar Almeida sneaks in to a split decision win over Ihor, and it was well deserved. Ihor in the last round was just exhausted one of those like hands down, just fucking face up against the opponent. And here I actually wrote, I think it was that fight. Oh my god, it was a mess. By the way, I have to mention it. The refs were atrocious. Forget a split decision. Cesar Almeida literally poked Ihor 4 times in less than 45 seconds. And it stopped twice, and no point was deducted. The ref missed 2 eye pokes, and then he actually stopped the fight for a right hook to the cup, which was a close call, but he stops it and still deducts nothing. There should have been 5 stoppages in the second round for Cesar Almeida hitting fouls against Ihor, and only 2 of them were called. No point was deducted. And then more so, Ihor would get Caesar up against the cage, and you know what the ref did? He separated them 3 times. 3 times. And now one of those times where they're clinched up over 20 seconds. One was 10 because I counted it. Just atrocious refing. And I think the refing helped Cesar Almeida win, which I'm not complaining. But just terrible refing inside the octagon, not the judges' scorecard inside the octagon. Next up, Austin Hubbard versus Alexander Hernandez. Ultimately, I thought Alexander Hernandez would win if he was the better guy in the first round. And he got a finish in the first round. That's not the case. He had a good first round. He won the first round, but then Hubbard found activity late into the fight. And this is where I lose a split decision. And this is our second split decision. Not much to say here. Hernandez was the better fighter. I'm not mad about it. Hubbard looked like a guy without testosterone. Hubbard couldn't get a takedown. He would shoot, shoot, shoot. I think he going into the third round, it was like 10 takedowns, and all of them were defended by Alexander Hernandez. He was the better fighter. We go into the judges' scorecard, and somebody gives Hubbard 30-27. Obviously, I loved it because I didn't have a Hubbard bet, but it was my prediction for him to win. And he loses in split decision. Weird. Fucking weird up to this point. And I have nothing to say other than Alexander Hernandez won that fight 29-28, and that's the worst. It should have probably been 30-27. But I could argue 29-28. Marina Rodriguez, Eisman Luciendo. I had Marina Rodriguez, the experience, the striking. Marina Rodriguez, let me see what I wrote down if I wrote down anything. I didn't because this was another nonsensical fight, but women's MMA. Marina Rodriguez for me won the first round. She knocked down Lucindo at one point. I think it was the second round. Lucindo did have a takedown in every round. And to end the first round, even though there was a knockdown, I think she had a minute of control time. She had like 3 minutes and almost finished Marina in the second, which I think it's 10-9, 10-9. So 1-1 going into the third. And then it was just like this sloppy slugfest. And ultimately, Lucindo wins another split decision. So up to this point, and we haven't started the main card, we have 3 split decisions. And we haven't even gotten to the good stuff. I haven't even lost my mind yet. But we're going to move forward. Stephen Thompson, Joaquin Buckley. I had Joaquin Buckley to win, but not only to win, but by decision. I got a little specific there. I thought he was going to wrestle. I thought he was going to take Stephen Thompson to the cage. Thompson is great at takedown defense. And he was. Every time Joaquin Buckley tried to take Stephen Thompson down, Stephen Thompson was back up within 10 seconds. He would go up against the cage, get up. He would take a knee, get up. It was incredible. I was so impressed because I thought Joaquin Buckley was going to be able to do what Mario Bautista did and hold Stephen Thompson for minutes at a time. Joaquin Buckley wasn't. But what Joaquin Buckley did do was he landed a crazy right hook. Just he fakes these flurry of punches. Stephen Thompson goes to circle out to his left, and Joaquin Buckley just catches him with a huge right hook. And Stephen Thompson just goes straight to the ground into the fetal position. And I think Buckley snuck in a punch, but the ref was already stopping it. It was very quick. And yeah, Joaquin Buckley, third round finish. And I had it 1-1 going into the third. So props to Joaquin to get back on an experienced guy. Stephen Thompson, even more props to him, the veteran, crafty veteran, experienced veteran, doing such a great job. Ketlin Vieira, Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison, negative 1,200. Guys, that's huge. And that to me is a huge red flag. I ended up thinking, hey, these are Bo Nickel numbers. This is such a crazy fight. You don't bet on her winning. You don't bet Kayla Harrison money line. You got to bet a prop bet. And all I did was to not go the distance. And I think it was like negative 110. and I threw that into Alex Pereira, Khalil Roundtree over 1.5 rounds, which it did go over. Kayla Harrison fighting Kellen Vieira, and Caitlin Vieira got shit on. Ultimately, before the fight, nobody gave her enough respect, but Caitlin Harrison couldn't get much going. She would get her takedowns very late into the round, and she couldn't develop much until round number 3, where she had her down for like a minute and a half, and she got good elbows and good ground and pound. Second round, same thing. She did that for just a couple of seconds, and then obviously it's not a couple of seconds, but let's say 30 seconds to a minute. Kayla Harrison looking dominant, but no finishes. And I really thought this was an opponent that Kayla Harrison, with all the hoopla she has behind her, should have gotten a finish. And maybe I'm being biased because I had bets on, but Kayla Harrison not showing me much in this fight. Kayla Harrison showing me that she's a wrestler, but Kayla Harrison worrying me because when she fights a champion, her striking is gonna suffer. And if Juliana Pena, who's now champion, if you didn't know, stops her takedowns, I think Juliana Pena eats her up in the striking game. Kayla Harrison has work to do. Kayla Harrison is a little overhyped because of how she came into the UFC. And I think she's a good selling point for the UFC. But the caliber of women who are at the top might be a little tough for her. If she fights Pennington, I think she wins because Pennington doesn't have the grappling. But someone like Juliana Pena beats Harrison, in my opinion, right now, tonight. Roman Dolidze, Kevin Holland. Man, I had Roman Dolidze winning. He did win. This fight didn't go too far. First round stoppage going into the second, because at the end of the round, we end up on the canvas. There's scrambles. We got a little sloppy. Kevin Holland ends up on his back, and Roman Dolidze is on top of him for about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes. I don't remember. He mounts him. He finds his way through. He's throwing nasty elbows, nasty punches, getting a lot going. And in one of those exchanges, Kevin Holland gets into a really weird position, right? Because I think it was like full guard, and then his hips were pushed up on himself. Yeah, I think that's what happened. Dolidze had like full guard, and then his hips were pushed off. He went to posture up, and when he did, Kevin Holland just started screaming, and then he flips down on the canvas and he gives Roman Dolidze his back. Roman Dolidze goes into ground and pound. He gets mount. He's just beating the shit out of him. Kevin Holland's talking to him. Round ends. He gets saved by the bell because he was getting his ass beat. When he gets up, he starts like grabbing his rib, tells his corner, "Hey, I think I broke my rib." At this point, I'm like, "Oh, this is over." The coach was giving it up to Holland. He's like, "Hey, can you continue?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think I can." But ultimately, they all just made the general, it was a general consensus that he couldn't, because he kept grabbing it. He was like, fuck, he was cursing, and he was like, oh man, he was grunting in pain, and he would have gotten smoked. I mean, it was just an injury waiting to happen, or making an injury worse waiting to happen. And ultimately they called it off there. So Roman Dolidze got the TKO win, and I was happy about that. Kevin Holland has this pattern where he wins one, loses one, win one, loses one. So he's gonna win the next one. Next up, Jose Aldo, Mario Batista. So I think I have 3 split decision wins up to this point. I've lost 2 of the 3. And then we have Jose Aldo, Mario Batista. Boring fight. Jose Aldo had the moments, 3 rounds, landed the better strikes. But this is what I explained on my live stream. If you go into a round and I land 8 jabs, a 1-2, a couple leg kicks, but the guy takes me up against the cage and holds me for 3.5 minutes, the guy who holds me up against the cage wins. It's control time. It's known. I have to do something significant to win that round as a striker. Jose Aldo, for me, didn't do enough in the third round. It was 1-1. The first round, Mario Batista had a lot of control time. Strikes were kind of compatible. Second round, Jose Aldo cut him open, landed a lot of jabs, had the significant strike advantage. He was controlled a good amount of the round, but he did enough damage where I think we say the damage was more than control time. Now, when we're 1-1 going into round number 3, Jose Aldo just cannot get a break, and Mario Batista takes him up to the cage, and I think he ends up having like 3.5 minutes of control time. When you have 3.5 minutes of control time, the other fighter has to have done enough work. And I hate the decision here. A lot of people think Jose Aldo got robbed, but I got to be honest. I had Mario Batista winning that fight at the end because I know how these judges work. Control time does matter. It is relevant. I don't care how many weak jabs you've landed. I don't care if you got a few strong leg kicks on me. So Jose Aldo ultimately loses that fight. And guess what? Split decision, making it the fourth split decision of the night out of 10 fights. Bananas. Bananas. And I've lost 3 out of the 4 splits at this point. 3 of them being dogs. Next up, Raquel Pennington, Juliana Pena. I hate Juliana Pena. Hate's a strong word. My mom always told me that. And I stand by what I just said. She tries to be a heel. She is a good heel. I don't like her fight style. I don't like her personality. I think she's annoying. I think she's attentiony. I think she's better than what she is. The whole thing just annoys me. I hate that she beat Amanda Nunes at any point in her career. It all sucks. Juliana Pena had a decent fight. Raquel Pennington had a decent fight. And the only thing I would judge in this fight, because this was ultimately a split decision fight, Juliana Pena won. Surprise. And that's the 5th one of the night, 4th one that I lose. Raquel Pennington, I think, did enough. I think she won 3 rounds to 2. I have to see the exact scorecard, what went where. I think 2 people gave Pena the first round where I didn't. And ultimately, round 4 and 5, I think, were Pennington, and it wasn't even close. The only thing I'd say about Pennington that didn't win her the fight, didn't secure the fight because it would have been secured, is working behind her jab. Pennington was having so much success in this fight. She even knocked down Pena at one point, but she would hit a double jab, a triple jab, a quadruple jab, and she would land 2 to 3 jabs at a time, but she would do nothing behind it. And it drove me bananas. I repeat, Raquel Pennington was hitting every jab she was throwing, but she would never work behind the jab. And how frustrating for like a striker. And I'm not saying I'm the striker, but I'm saying someone who knows the sport, someone who knows striking. It's frustrating to see someone have such a successful jab, close the distance. You don't need to clinch with her because Pena wants you to clinch, but she's there. You're moving her up against the cage, and you could just work the jab, and you don't. There was no right hand to follow it. It was jab, 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 emptiness. Jab, jab, jab. Let her circle around you. Jab, jab, nothing. Jab, nothing. And ultimately, I think that's what happened. I don't think Pena won the fight. I think Raquel Pennington lost the fight. And you know what? Don't leave it to the judges. She said that, and I agree with her. Personally, I think Pennington won the fight. I really do. But when you leave it to the judges and you don't follow up as a champion as you should, you lose the fight. And I have this saying, and everybody, there's this saying, and I agree with it. You should win the belt. The champion doesn't have to win the belt. They have the belt. You got to take it from them. And for me, Pena didn't do enough to take the belt. That's how I feel. So, but Pena's our new champion, and I couldn't be more upset about it. Last but not least, Alex Pereira, Khalil Roundtree. Guys, going into this fight, all I was nervous about was going over 1.5 rounds. That's what I bet. I was so nervous because I said, this is like 2 heavyweights going at it, 2 heavyweights striking. Alex Pereira looked composed. Khalil Roundtree looked a little nervous. But up to this point, the card's been a freak show. It's been weird. I didn't like anything of this card up to now. So I said, put the house on Khalil. I didn't do it. But it would only make sense for Khalil to win this fight after everything that had happened. 5 split decisions in the night. So anyway, I was worried because Alex Pereira came out and he had a crazy sense of urgency. And that's something you don't see. Alex Pereira is a very calculated fighter. He comes out and you see him and he's just there, hands kind of low, and he's going to like low kick, left hook, and he's just like staring you down. And he's like the snake who's cocked back, just like waiting for you. I really do feel that way. And he comes out and he throws like a crazy front kick. I'm like, oh shit. What does Alex know that I don't? As we move on, first round, Khalil Roundtree finds a lot of success with his 1-2. 1-2. Jab misses, the 2 hits, jab hits, straight hits. And all of a sudden, one thing I'm noticing is, man, Khalil Roundtree has the output. When Alex Pereira's walking him down, he hits him with a 1, and he has a really strong 2, and it's landing. What the hell? Khalil ends up taking round number 1 in my eyes. He just has more of the control. I feel like he controlled the pace. He was landing his straight whenever he wanted to. Round number 2, a little bit of the same thing. Maybe we see a few more leg kicks. And also, I want to note, at the end of the first round, there was some frustration in Alex Pereira's corner. You see him and Glover like kind of talking really animated to each other. Something you don't see. It's Poetan. He's flat affect. He's the Stone Man. Weird. So I'm a little concerned up to this point. But again, this is a Salt Lake City card. Anything could happen. But I'm starting to doubt Alex Pereira a little bit. I'm like, oh shit, Khalil could win a round. That wasn't even a possibility in my book coming into this fight, to be honest with you. So now round two happens. A little bit of the same. I got to be honest with you. And what I saw was Alex pushed the pace, Khalil pushed the pace, Alex pushed the pace. But one thing was consistent. Khalil could hand his right hand, his left hand, because he's southpaw. He would one, two. One would miss, he would close the distance, two. And he just looked faster. He was explosive. He's a powerful dude. And even one point, you see Alex Pereira's neck jerk. And I was like, oh shit, this is actually scary. And this is where the real scary part comes out. In one of those, Alex Pereira goes for a high kick, I believe it was, or he goes for a kick. It could have been a calf kick because he spun around a couple times because he was shooting so powerfully and he would miss. And he turns around like a 180, and Khalil throws a right hook, I believe, and kind of nips him with his wrist, and Alex drops. For me, it was a takedown, a knockdown. Sorry, not a takedown, a knockdown. And I'm like, oh shit! All of a sudden, we're back in our corners. He gets out of the round. 2-0 Khalil. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? That's a weird thing to happen. This is not something that happens to Alex Pereira. And this, at this moment, and I just missed that snap. I couldn't, there it is. I got grubby fingers or something. So this is where the change happens. This is where a champion is shown. Alex Pereira comes out in the third round. And I feel like we saw the Alex Pereira who fought Izzy for the first time in the UFC. All of a sudden, Alex Pereira's like laser focused, just starts pushing the pace. In the third round, leg kick, leg kick. And all of a sudden, they look a little heavy. All of a sudden, Khalil Roundtree isn't able to circle around the cage the same way. All of a sudden, round 1 and 2, he was fine, but everything's starting to accumulate. Boom. Now he's landing the jab more effectively. The 1-2 hits a few hooks. Khalil's bleeding. What the hell? Leg kick, leg kick. 1-2, hook, hook, body, body jab. And you're like, what the fuck? This is a different fighter. Oh shit. And Khalil's kind of okay, slowing down. Where's his mobility? Round ends 2-1 in rounds. And one thing I said on my live stream, I said, guys, this might just be a momentum shift. We might just see Alex Pereira take over this fight. Maybe the mobility, the kicks are stopping the mobility of Khalil Roundtree. Guys, that's exactly what happened. Go watch the fourth round. Alex Pereira saw it. And ultimately, he says that in the post-fight interview. He says, I know he comes out strong and then his cardio gives out. And again, we're fighting at elevation. Alex Pereira has just dog walked Khalil Roundtree in the fourth round. And I'm not going to give you more of the same. Leg kicks, hooks, jab, 1-2, 1-2-3. Everything was landing. The fourth round of Alex Pereira was beautiful. I got to go rewatch it like after this. I post this. 1-2-3, 1-2, jab, jab, leg kick, leg kick. And now what we're seeing is that Khalil Roundtree is a tree and he can't move. The leg kicks work. And Alex Pereira has this suffocating fight style. He's like a venomous snake and he just, boom, takes a bite. And all of a sudden that venom is in you and you just slowly deteriorate. And that's literally what we saw Khalil Roundtree do. He just deteriorated. He had a great fight. He won round 1 and 2, and I think it's pretty clear. And then round 3, we see a momentum shift. We see Alex Pereira build. And ultimately, Alex Pereira just finishes Khalil Roundtree where he just drops. His face was busted. His nose cut was busted open. His eye was bleeding. When he got interviewed by Rogan, there was a fucking blood clot just coming out of his nose. Guys, Alex Pereira might end up being one of the biggest champions in UFC history. We always say who's next. Before Conor McGregor, there was never a Conor McGregor. Before John Jones, there was never a John Jones. Alex Pereira is his own thing. And one thing I want to say is I think when it's all said and done in his career, Alex Pereira is going to be on the Mount Rushmore of UFC fighters. Alex Pereira is his own fighter. Alex Pereira is actively making history and we're watching it. Nobody has an answer. And even when he's tested in different ways, he finds a way to victory. We are literally watching a masterpiece. We're actively in the middle. Appreciate greatness. He may one day go down as the best mixed martial artist of all time. Someone who has minimal wrestling or no wrestling, no grappling, but one of the best up and comers, one of the fastest roads to the championship, 2 divisions, and then just absolutely giving nobody the time of day. Guys, Alex Pereira is the truth. Alex Pereira is the people's champion. Have a good night. UFC 307 was everything we thought it may be and more. Have a good one.